Hey guys, how you doing? I'm here today to do my first actually vinyl finds of the year. I've done a couple of videos earlier this year. They're both contest entries, but this is the first vinyl finds. I've got quite a bit of stuff accumulated. I got about 25 records, so I'm not going to say a lot about each one, so the video's not too long, okay? Starting off, playing in the background is this record, Desmond Dekker, King of Ska. This is some classic Jamaican ska, I guess back from the 60s primarily, and this is a great compilation for Desmond Dekker. You guys might know the songs Israelites and the song that's playing right now, 007, I guess would probably be the two biggest tracks from here, but again, this being a comp, there's many classic ska songs here. So that leads me to the next slew of albums, which are reggae albums. Been on a bit of a reggae kick lately. It's always been one of my favorite genres of music, and managed to fill quite a few holes recently with a lot of albums that either I had on CD and wanted to get on vinyl, or never owned at all, and are artists that I have other albums for. So start off with a single, 45. This is Bob Marley, who's my favorite reggae artist and my third favorite artist in my top 20 that I did. This is Bob Marley's single Buffalo Soldier. I think you guys will know this. I have Buffalo Soldier on two other LPs, but the main reason why I got this 45 is for the B-side, which has a dub version of Buffalo Soldier, just simply called Buffalo Dub. So always looking to add to my Bob Marley collection. Another favorite reggae artist of mine is Burning Spear. This is Burning Spear's album Man in the Hills. I think it's officially his maybe second or third album. I do know it's the follow-up to probably his most well-known album, which is Marcus Garvey. So this is Man in the Hills back from 1976, back really in the heyday of roots reggae. Sorry, just had to pause there for a second. Another Burning Spear, Fittest of the Fittest. This is Burning Spear's album from 1983, equally as good as the other one that I've shown, and now I've got 4 Burning Spear albums in my collection, and always looking to add more. Like I said, one of my favorite reggae artists. Another favorite of mine, one of the original Wailers, Peter Tosh. This is Peter's 1979 album, his 4th solo album called Mystic Man. Peter, of course, this is not one of his best albums. I've had this album for years on CD. I rate his albums Equal Rights, Legalize It, and Mama Africa easily better than this album, although this has some good tracks and is definitely worth having. Peter had 7 official major label solo albums. This is my 6th album, so only one more to go, which is his final album, No Nuclear War, which is easily, I think, the weakest of his solo albums. So again, this is from 1979. The best known track, I would say, or my favorite track off of this is Crystal Ball. Although this also included one of his singles called Buckingham Palace, which is an 8-minute version. I think the single was edited down, but not a good track in my opinion. It's definitely very disco sounding, and it's a sound, in my opinion, does not suit Peter Tosh. But it is what it is, and this is still an album worth having. I'm definitely looking to get No Nuclear War if I can find that to complete my Peter Tosh collection. Then we have a reggae classic that I've owned for years, and honestly don't really play very much on CD, but I felt like I got reacquainted with it, and I thought, man, why haven't I been playing this? Because it's an amazing album. It's the Congos, Heart of the Congos. Some of you might know the track Fisherman. It has Cedric Myton on vocals, one of the two vocalists in the band, he has that very distinctive falsetto vocal, some very inventive percussion on this album, which I really, really love, and a reggae classic, Heart of the Congos. Another reggae classic, 2/7's Clash. I've also owned this many years on CD. Joseph Hill is the lead singer of this band, and I'm not going to get into the whole 2/7's Clash, and the world was supposed to end when 2/7's Clash, I guess referring to the year 1977. As the story goes, but aside from all of that, this is a classic roots reggae album. I'm saying the word classic a lot, I realize that, but it truly is, and any respectable reggae collection needs to have this album. That's from, I think it's obviously from 1977, 2/7's Clash. Then an album I've owned for many years on CD as well. I'm saying that for a lot of these. And I owned a vinyl copy of this record, but not in its, I guess, original form. We have UB40 and their debut album, Signing Off. I had this album on, I guess it was a comp called More UB40 Music. It included all the songs that are on here, plus some 12-inch versions. This version has the proper album, and then has a 45 or a 12-inch 45 RPM disc that includes 3 songs that weren't found on the Signing Off album. This, for me, is easily UB40's best album, and is easily in my top 5 reggae albums of all time. You guys might know the songs Food for Thought, King, Tyler. Those are some of the bigger songs from this album, and I can't recommend this one enough for reggae fans. If you think UB40 is just Red Red Wine and songs like that, well, I like Red Red Wine, don't get me wrong, a great song on Labor of Love, but this is when I think UB40 were really, really special. And then UB40 followed up Signing Off with this album. This album, Present Arms. This is still an amazing album, and I would say my second favorite UB40 album, maybe this or Labor of Love 2. I really love that album quite a bit. This has the song, well-known song 1 in 10. It's very similar to Signing Off, as it was the follow-up, and again, highly, highly recommend this. Then I have a compilation called DJs. Yeah, it's called DJs, and it's basically toasters or DJs like U-Roy, Scotty, Dillinger, people like that, back around the dance hall style when it started emerging, I guess in the, I don't know if it, I think of it mainly late 70s, early 80s, but I could be wrong on that. Doug, maybe you can chip in with some information. You definitely know reggae a lot better than I do. But this is a great comp to have. The one song that I really wanted that's on this is a song called Dry Breaks by Scotty, which was on the They Harder They Come soundtrack, released back in the early 70s. And, I haven't been able to find that on vinyl, but did find that song on here on CD. And U-Roy, Dillinger, Eka Mouse, some of the names that you may recognize. Then going back to Bob Marley, my favorite reggae artist, I only needed one Bob Marley album on vinyl to complete his Island discography, and that album is Uprising. Finally got it. It's a little bit chewed off from the top, but I got a good discount on this one. This is probably in my top 3 Bob Marley albums of all time, along with Exodus and Survival. This has got big hits, Could You Be Loved, Coming In From the Cold. This is an amazing, amazing Bob Marley album. It's a later day album in the late 70s, and I'm so happy that I finally got this. The reissue's been available for many years, but I was always sort of holding out for a cheaper used copy. And then something that I never owned was this Bob Marley 12-inch for the track Jammin'. I've always had this track on the Legend album and on Exodus, so I didn't really need it for that. However, the version on here is the 12-inch version. It's a longer version, and Jammin' is probably, push comes to shove, my favorite Bob Marley song of all time. So really happy to get an extended version of that. And then on the B-side, we have the song Punky Reggae Party, which was Bob Marley reuniting with Lee Scratch Perry, who was a producer who originally produced Bob Marley before he joined Island Records. So in about, I think around 1977, Lee Scratch Perry produced this song for Bob Marley, Punky Reggae Party. And I've always had a live version of that song on the Babylon by Bus double live album, but this is an extended studio version, which I'm thrilled to have. Related to Bob Marley is Bob Marley's son Ziggy Marley. This is Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. This is their third album, major label album. I owned this on cassette and CD back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Never thought I would find this on vinyl. I've seen some 12-inch singles of a couple of tracks from this album and almost got those. But I'm glad I waited out and just found this on Discogs by pure fluke. Now I think I've got the essential Ziggy Marley and the Melody Maker first three major label albums, Conscious Party, One Bright Day, and Jamaica. That's it for the reggae. Now another favorite artist of mine that I've shown many times before, Frank Zappa, and his album Tinseltown Rebellion. This is Frank Zappa back in the early 80s. It's actually a live album, although there is one or two songs that have some studio tinkering on them. Double album. Frank Zappa's been always amazing for producing great band lineups, and it's no different on here. One of my favorite Zappa members, whether in Zappa's band or outside of Zappa's band, has been the drummer Vinnie Caliuta, and he's featured on this album, so I'm really pleased to get this. Another 80s album, Talking Heads. This is called True Stories. Yeah, True Stories. One of few Talking Heads albums that I don't have. It's not a big favorite of mine. I've always liked the song Wild Wild Life. That's a great song, but the rest of the album is pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't put it up there with their debut or Fear of Music or those kinds of albums, but it's still the Talking Heads, and even a lesser Talking Heads is better than many of the bands out there. So True Stories. Then a 12-inch single for Simple Minds and the song from the Breakfast Club soundtrack, Don't You Forget About Me. That song's a very polarizing song. I think, early Simple Minds fans kind of indicate that's where they lost interest in the band. Obviously, that song was a huge hit for them, and it gained them a lot of new fans. So it's a bit of a dividing line there. I've always liked that song. This 12-inch has the version from the soundtrack and an extended version. And this is, other than the soundtrack to the Breakfast Club, this is the only place that you can get this song, because it was never on a Simple Minds studio album. They followed up this song with probably one of their most successful commercial albums, Once Upon a Time, which I really like. Then my favorite band of all time, The Police, Every Breath You Take, the singles. I've never found really the need to own this album because I have all of these songs already, but the song that I really didn't have, which I'm very familiar with, I probably had a digital copy of it somewhere, is their remake of the song Don't Stand So Close to Me. So this album's from 1986. That version of Don't Stand So Close to Me, which is not as good as the original from 1980, is still an excellent version. It was retitled "Don't Stand So Close to Me" '86. I got this really just more to complete the collection and also to get that particular song on vinyl, which I didn't own. I've seen this album shown, I want to say in, I'm not sure if it was CD or cassette form by James Griffiths. He has his video talks about how he had this on constant play back when it came out. So go to his video to hear more about that. But again, for the casual Police fan, this may be all that you need, because it really has all the the big singles as it's titled. Roxanne, Every Breath You Take. But for a more hardcore Police fan, you need to get the 5 studio albums. So, since I'm a big Police fan, I should have really got this next record a long time ago. Not long time ago, when it came out, which was 2017. The album Gizmodrome, which features the Police drummer Stuart Copeland. And I didn't get this record until most recently. And I have to ask myself why. Like, if I'm such a big Police fan, why wouldn't I have got this upon release? So I was certainly interested in it, was listening to the tracks, but the tracks really didn't strike a chord with me. I think what threw me off the most was Stuart Copeland's vocals. He's not a great singer, but over the course of time, I started playing these songs on YouTube more, and Stuart Copeland's vocals actually fit the songs, and the mood of the songs actually pretty well. Also in this band, if you can see from the picture there, another favorite of mine, Adrian Belew from formerly of King Crimson, Mark King, Level 42, and a guy, Vittorio Cosmo, I think is his name, an Italian guy who's worked in the past closely with Stuart Copeland. This is an excellent album. The instrumentation, the drums, fantastic. The songs are very quirky. I think they sort of have that Zappa-esque type humor to them, and if you like that kind of stuff, or you're in the mood for that, I think this album will go down really well. The instrumentation, especially Adrian Belew's guitar, really stands out to me on this. And I think when I first heard some of these songs, the problem that I had with them was, I'm like, Copeland's got Adrian Belew and Mark King in the band. Why the hell aren't these guys doing more vocals? They don't do any lead vocals on any of the tracks. That's done, like I said, by Stuart Copeland. But certainly there's a lot of Mark King doing backup vocals. Adrian Belew's less pronounced on that. Hopefully if these guys make another album, we'll hear a lot more from Belew and Mark King. Gizmodrome. Another album, long time coming, recently shown by Hannah in one of her videos, is the classic Mezzanine by Massive Attack. Absolutely essential trip hop. Took me a long time to get this on vinyl. Don't know why. Then another record that took me a long time to get. I actually had ordered it, a reissue copy, once before. It got lost somewhere in the mail. It got refunded, and then it took me a while to reorder again. The classic Maggot Brain by Funkadelic. Everybody knows this one. Lou Reed, live in New York. This is Lou Reed back from the early 80s, and it's for the tour for the album Blue Mask, which is an excellent Lou Reed album back from the early 80s. This is highly recommended, a mix of his solo stuff and some Velvet Underground classics. Another live album by one of my favorite artists, 4th favorite artist of all time, Jimi Hendrix. This is Isle of Wight. Always looking to pick up Jimi Hendrix. 6-song live album, Isle of Wight, featuring Billy Cox on bass and Mitch Mitchell on drums. Back from the late 80s, we have the Pogues, Peace and Love. This is the Pogues' follow-up to their probably most commercial album, If I Should Fall From Grace with God, which had the big hit, Fairy Tale of New York with Kirsty MacColl. This album is probably known for the single Misty Morning Albert Bridge. Excellent song, excellent album. Kirsty MacColl also features on a song on here called Lorelei. lesser known, obviously, than Fairy Tale of New York, but definitely a worthwhile pickup if you're a Pogues fan. A grail for me, Primus, Pork Soda, finally reissued. This is Primus's third album. I'm going to be getting all of the reissues. I already had from several years ago the first album, Frizzle Fry, and the second album, Sailing the Seas of Cheese. This is up there with those albums. Has the big single, My Name is Mud. And lastly, another Primus, their fifth album overall, the Brown Album. This is probably one of my lesser favorite Primus albums, but I still love Primus. Kind of the same thing as Talking Heads applies. For me, even the lesser Primus is better than most bands' stuff out there. So there you go. All right, guys, that was a lot of albums, a lot of talking, a little over 20 minutes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.